The United States government is on the verge of killing side hustles. And this is at a time when many Americans need side hustles to survive. There are many Americans struggling just trying to keep food on the table for their families. And many of these side hustles are essential for people to stay afloat.
Hustles aren't just a way to make a little extra cash on the side anymore.
Yeah, Fox 5's Kendall Green shows us it's a new study that finds an alarming number of people are relying on them just to make ends meet.
For bills, so I can afford paying my bills and then have like side money as well.
I help move couches and do temp mining for weddings and stuff.
I used to sell hair at one point. I used to sell weave to women. I don't know. Social media, of course. We live in New York City. This is one of the highest cost living places in the United States. So.
And they aren't alone. A survey by OnePoll by Herbalife found more than 6 out of 10 Americans between 27 and 42 have a side hustle to keep them afloat.
This is even causing more Americans to rack up credit card debt because they're using their credit cards to try to make ends meet. And this phenomenon is just not with people who are at lower income levels. There's many professionals that's really struggling and depending on side hustle because of the high cost of inflation.
The cost of living is hitting many people hard, including Ryan Torres.
Grocery, rent were my two biggest ones.
Works as a teacher. Ryan says he started using his credit card heavily while he was student teaching with no income, but it didn't stop there.
I put a couple months of rent on there, and then it snowballed from there.
Now, with all going on in this country, a lot of these policies can be missed. Now, with this one policy, it's already in effect, and the second policy had been put on hold, but will come in effect very soon and will hurt small businesses, especially if they're just starting off with a side hustle where it can really affect your income.
Yard after yard, these two brothers, turned teachers, turned business partners, squeeze in as many lawns as possible between school and sundown. Brandon and Brian Andrews, respectively, are a behavioral specialist and reading teacher in Edmond and Oklahoma City. Like their lawnmowers, their school salaries didn't cut it. And when Brian's daughter needed a liver transplant 2 years ago, he needed more of a security blanket. This is their 4th year in business, and they mow 5 to 6 days a week. The brothers say only about half of their clients know they teach.
Very unfortunate that a lot of teachers are forced to work second jobs.
It helps me out tremendously. It helps out with the extra bills.
And their story is far from unique.
Now, there's been a rollout of a new change to some labor rules, which would even affect those two teachers' lawn care business. And it's going to affect any type of independent contractor, and it's going to hurt small businesses, those that do hair, barbers, and even side hustles. And one of these rule changes will really affect truckers.
The administration announced a new labor rule that redefines independent contractors. So janitors, home care workers, construction workers, and now truckers could be considered employees rather than independent contractors.
We're going to jump back into this story, but I wanted to bring you this important information. A website, I give you a free hard inquiry removal package, and we have other packages for purchase to help you remove your negative items. I also have my Elite Business Circle. This is designed to help you make money in the first 30 days of the program and to show you how to build business credit and get business funding, even if you have lower credit scores. And for your personal credit scores, I have my Elite Credit System with my personal credit coaching and AI software, and users like Sean is getting great results. In 6 months, he went from a 612 credit score where all his credit scores over 770, and now his credit score is at an 803. You can get all these links in the description of the video and in the pinned comment section.
The Labor Department says misclassifying employees as independent contractors is a serious issue. They say the new rule that's supposed to start March 11th is designed to make sure they get the wages they've earned. But Arkansas Trucking Association President Shannon Newton says there are methods in place now to make sure that happens.
And so it's that individual's choice as to whether or not they want to be an employee of a trucking company or whether they want to own and operate their own small business. And this rule would potentially take away that choice.
Now, with this new rule, it's really going to affect the trucking industry. Now, if you don't know, the trucking industry actually impacts every part of our life. And with truckers, they are owner operated. So independent contractors for bigger companies. And many of these truckers really take pride in running their own business. And with this rule, this is going to affect them as being an independent contractor, because this rule is now trying to classify them as payroll employees. And many people that are independent contractors want their own freedom. And this is actually a hindrance to them running their own business and getting tax deductions to do so.
She also says the new rule will further increase the cost of shipping by truck.
It's going to make the capacity much more rigid, which is going to cause the cost to go up.
And says the larger trucking firms like JB Hunt, Pam Transport, and ABF won't be affected too harshly by this new rule.
They have the resources to navigate what the regulation is, to employ, the attorneys and put the kind of the safeguards in place. But really the companies that are really going to be at the most disadvantage are those mid-sized fleets. Those are operating, 3 or 4 or 500 trucks because they're utilizing owner operators in order to go after particular lines of business and customers.
Now, as you can see, this rule doesn't really affect large corporations because they actually have the capital to override this. But for smaller owner operators who want to have multiple people to work with them in a fleet, or if they get work, this can really damage their business if they're brokering out work with another owner operator. So this can be devastating to their bottom line. Now, this rule will not just only hurt truckers, but this rule will also hurt the gig economy and gig workers that use gigs just to get by to make extra income.
The Biden administration on Tuesday issued a new rule that makes it harder for companies to treat gig workers as independent contractors, forcing businesses to offer salary benefits and protections that full-time employees receive. The move has riled some companies who rely heavily on gig workers, such as Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash, whose costs could increase by as much as 30%, and therefore legal challenges are expected. Workers will now be considered employees rather than contractors when they are economically dependent on a company. Business groups say that will cause millions of workers to lose job opportunities and create confusion that could lead to costly litigation.
Now, this change to the labor rule may have been done with good intentions, but it's going to have an adverse effect, especially for those that do gig work. This might eliminate some of those gig work opportunities. And many people that use gig work just use it as a supplement for their income to make some extra cash. So with this, it is designed to help those that may use Uber and Lyft as a full-time stream of income. But in the same token, you may lose the benefits of tax write-offs and your independent schedule by becoming an employee. And everybody doesn't want to be an employee. Some people want freedom of time and to want to operate their own business with the benefits that comes with that. Now, the next big change that's going to kill out many side hustles is the IRS tax threshold for reporting for apps like Venmo and Cash App. Many side hustles depend on these types of apps to get paid. And now this new rule, it has been delayed, but the policy did pass. And this is going to really adversely affect many side hustles.
Use Venmo, Cash App, or any other payment app.
There's a lot of confusion about new tax rules if you use these apps for a side hustle to get paid directly.
IRS has updated its reporting guidelines a few times on this and just did it again. Since 2008, Cash Apps have been required to send 1099-K forms to customers who receive income of more than $20,000 and have 200 or more transactions a year. But as we've told you before, under the American Rescue Plan of 2021, that threshold was lowered to 600 with no transaction minimum. And that change was supposed to go into effect for income earned during 2022. But then last December, the IRS delayed the implementation by a year. Well, now the IRS says it's delaying it again by adding another year and raising the reporting threshold. So what does that mean for you? Cash apps will now have to report business transactions made in 2024 that are more than $5,000, and you will get that 1099-K form in early 2025.
Now, that tax change is a big hit for side hustles and small businesses because dropping that threshold from $20,000 down to $600, many people that are starting out in small businesses or side hustles don't have a lot of capital because they can't get a business loan. So they're using either services like braiding hair or, like we saw with the two teachers, just cutting lawns to get started. And they need those servicers because they just don't have the money to invest in payment processors. And Cash App and Venmo is one of those platforms that they can use to start processing payments for their business until they get to a point of growth where they can reinvest into the company. With this change, now it's going to put people on the hook for small payments of like $600. It doesn't take much to get there. Even sending your kids some money that's in college by using these platforms, now that's a 1099-K tax form that they're going to send you over $600, which is a really low amount. So now they made it a move where they delayed this reporting standard, but it's going to be $5,000. And so for just the tax year of 2024, and then that $600 threshold will come into play. So looking at these changes, if you're a person that's looking to get into a side hustle, now may be the time before these rules really kick into play, especially for the reporting. But you want to be wise on how you set up moving forward because you don't want a tax liability, and you want to make sure that what you're doing is set up properly and it doesn't cost you money, but it will make you money so you can get established with your side hustle and turn it to a thriving business. So hopefully this information was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section. But if you have more detailed questions for me, you can go to my website and all your questions go directly to my cell phone. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned.